We'll call small crowd.
Yeah, so far.
This happened before, Chief. We usually get a few people.
I figured that we'd have at least the people that had conversations about these things that would have something to say.
Brandon, you can confirm notices went out to the ones that are close
Yep.
by.
Yeah, we did postcards.
Okay.
Yeah. We sent it out. We also sent it out to everybody who is on the traffic safety committee sign up list. We put it in the paper as well. So we definitely went farther than we've gone in the past, and I think we'll continue to do that in the future as well.
Okay. But we did what we have to do. It's just all going to miss a very, very exciting meeting.
Okay, so my clock shows 11 a.m. on Wednesday, July 20th. I'm going to call to order the Traffic Safety Committee with Traffic Safety Committee members Alan Ward, Director of Public Safety, Brandon Swanson, the Community Planning and Building Director, and Robert Hooray, Public Works Director.
All here.
All here.
So I guess we can make time available for public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make any public comment or discuss any issues?
Chief, I don't see anyone. I'm looking at the participants list. I don't think anyone's on here but us. So I think you're safe to move past the public comment.
So section 3, we'll go to presentation. I don't see that there is any presentations.
Nope.
Nope.
So old business, these are items previously discussed, review the stop sign at 7th and Junipero.
Perhaps I'll get that kicked off, Chief, if I may. As the committee knows, historically there's been problems at 7th and Junipero. There's bad sight visibility. There was a history of a few accidents along the way. I don't know, 6-8 months ago, the mayor suggested that we take a closer look at it because of several near misses. The committee did a meeting or two ago. We did take a look at it. We took it to the city council to approve converting the intersection to all-way stop. That has been implemented about a month ago.
It was June
14th.
14th.
Yeah, so this is a little over a month ago. Initially, it seemed like things were going very well. A lot of conformance to the stop signs. We did get the word out. Oh, we have a customer. We got the word out in the paper and in Friday letters at the city council meeting. We had posted temporary stop ahead signs. We put in a crosswalk. So it seemed like everything was going well. To make it even more effective, Public Works fixed the split rail fence along Junipero between Ocean and 7th to prevent the jaywalkers. And that problem has been significantly reduced, and people are using the crosswalk. And then based on our site tour of inspection yesterday afternoon, at least in my opinion, it seemed like the stop signs are working very effectively, like they're intended to. There was a suggestion to put in for southbound Junipero to put in a straight / right turn arrow on the southbound lane. That's certainly something that wouldn't hurt. So we'll go ahead and do that if the committee agrees. And one of the things when we took this to the city council several months ago, the council had one concern. They agreed wholeheartedly. Let's install the stop signs and the crosswalk. Their concern was regarding the crosswalk across 7th at the corner of the Carmel Plaza. That's the location we were looking at yesterday. So right now it's an unmarked crosswalk. There's the 2 non-compliant ADA ramps, but that kind of implies there's a crosswalk there. I don't think anyone is going to the west, going down a block and crossing over at Mission, which is a marked crosswalk, and then coming back up the hill. So people are just crossing And in my personal opinion, it didn't seem like there's a real problem in the daytime because there's plenty of visibility now and cars stopping in all directions. But at night, when it's very dark at night, that could be a problem. So we talked about the possibility of putting in a crosswalk there across 7th and marking with the pedestrian crossing 1 or 2 signs that we could fine tune the exact locations in the field if this committee wants to pursue that. So hopefully that's a little bit of background and where we're at, and happy to pass the baton to the next guy.
Brandon, do you have any comments on that?
I guess I'm the next guy. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Bob said. I mean, I was involved in the committee that brought the stop sign to the city council, and I think that is working really well. I mean, with any new stop sign or traffic signalization, you're usually going to have a couple of whoopsies early on, which we've experienced in the form of minor collisions. But I think those will probably go away. I would be supportive of the right turn straight arrow. I think that will help with some of the confusion or people trying to skirt that going to the right. I guess Bob and Chief, I'll defer to you both when and how we want to address trying to put in that crosswalk there across 7th. If we feel like we should do that as a specific item on the next agenda, or if we should just try it out and put in a sign that says watch out for the crosswalk. I'm kind of indifferent on that, but I do think we need something there to protect the people crossing the street.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is when, because there's parking on either side of the street there, and people are going to be looking up to the sign and coming up to the limit line, because that walkway is a good, probably 15 feet. That's my biggest concern, is that someone's going to step out and people are going to be looking past that and not see them step out. So as we all know, and we've seen, we have a tendency for our pedestrians to not look a lot. So I would be in favor of a crosswalk, or at the very least putting up some signage to alert drivers that there is a crosswalk or potential pedestrian crossing there.
One thing we could do, if I may, maybe ask Rob, our Public Works Superintendent, could we put temporary tape crosswalk in, test it out for a month, and just see if it works? We would certainly put the signs up as well and get the notifications out, but we put temporary tape, see if it works. If we get positive feedback, then we can make it the thermoplastic or paint or whatever. And if we have second thoughts about it after the tape goes down, it's very simple to remove tape and very inexpensive. So that's another option that we have, is just try it on a temporary basis and see how it works.
I like that option. Rob, I know you were doing some measuring yesterday. Is it like from an actual requirements for distance and things, is it physically possible to put a crosswalk out there and keep that a conforming intersection?
Yeah, I believe it is. We might have to, like you had mentioned, cut the bottom 6 inches off of the stop legend, but we can make it fit.
Okay. I would be supportive of that then, Bob, to do the temporary for a month. And would that include like someone, I'm assuming not you, but somebody going out there and just watching for like an hour maybe and just kind of observing? Yeah,
well, I think Public Works can install that south arrow, the straight and the right turn arrow at whenever we get to it. That's just business as usual. But certainly we'd want to work closely with the police there together, like we did for the crosswalk. Have an officer there while we're installing that, even if it's temporary tape, and both Public Works and ED monitor it for a few hours and see how it's working. And I think it would probably be prudent to maybe an officer on patrol that evening or the next couple of evenings, look at it at nighttime, because that's really where the rubber meets the road, is at night when it's dark. Is that thing working in the dark?
Yeah, no, I think we absolutely should have some monitoring to see how it goes, and we could definitely have an officer assign someone there to check during different days and sit and watch and give us some actual feedback.
Okay, and one last thing for the record, I would like to go on record saying it's not preferred to put a block crosswalk. This is kind of an exception to the rule. There's one over at the post office, which has potentially some of its own problems, but this is not a preferred thing that we would want to do all over town. This is a special circumstance where it's a large intersection with a lot of traffic, and we certainly want to protect the pedestrians as well. So this appears to be the step in the right direction, but this should not be construed as being something we would recommend all over town.
Well, I think it's also should be noted that the only reason this is really an issue, it looks like, because the previous action in extending that planter, which forced the stop sign forward to
Right.
where it would have normally been, is what we're trying to deal with.
Right.
So
I guess we take I'll move the motion that we put in the straight and right turn arrow on southbound Junipero, and to with Public Works and PD working closely together to install a temporary crosswalk using tape of some sort, and pedestrian crossing signs as warranted in the field, and monitor the situation for a while, whatever that time frame is, and then perhaps keep that on old business again for the next meeting to see how that's working.
Now, Bob, before we vote on that, we forgot to talk about the idea of creating a little bulbed out landscaped area on the corner of 7th and Junipero there at the end of the bus stall parking. Do we want to throw that into this as well? Or do we want to wait on that for a little while and see if the arrows do the job?
I would recommend we wait. That's a betterment, but it's not really related. Would it really help the crosswalk, or it's just?
It won't help the
aesthetic-
crosswalk. Well,
aesthetic-
yes and no, because it will stop someone from skirting around somebody stopped at the actual stop sign and
That's
taking
true.
a quick right
That's true.
and being farther pushed to the right where you can't see the crosswalk. So it may actually help with that as well, but it just calms the traffic more in general.
Okay, so I would agree that that's a worthy thing to pursue. That's going to take a lot longer in time.
Sure.
So that would probably delay the crosswalk, which could be done in, I would imagine, a couple of weeks or so.
Yeah.
If we have to do the curb and the drainage and the planting and all that kind of stuff, and utility markouts, that's going to take some time, and we'll probably need a contractor to do that.
I'm fine. I mean, if you're okay with adding it to your motion, I'm fine adding it, just basically giving approval from this body for whenever it can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm also in favor of that. That's a good idea. I like that idea from the very beginning.
Oh, Chief, we should probably bring this topic up to the member of the public before we vote. There is somebody online now that may want to participate in this topic.
Is there anybody out there in the Zoom land that wants to participate or make a comment on this motion?
This is Kathleen Ryan, and I'm here for number 4 on your agenda. And it sounds like things are going well. I'm always of the opinion to get things done expeditiously. So, it might be good to just implement the initial part of the plan and then add to it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we take a vote.
So are we amending the motion? So we're clear, we're gonna add the tape crosswalk. We're gonna try that, monitor that before we go permanent. And then we're gonna approve the addition of the planter possibility after further examination. Is that what we're doing?
Right,
Okay.
that sounds good. All in favor?
Aye.
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 We appreciate your support, but there's only 3 of us that are voting on this.
If you would like to, ma'am, if you'd like to substitute for the Public Works Director, I could drop off at a heartbeat.
It's nice to have consensus with something. I mean, with all the politics going on, it's nice.
All right.
All right, that concludes our old business. The next item is the new discussion items that we have 4 on the agenda. We'll go with first, Dolores and 6, considering adding the 2 new stop signs to create a 4-way stop.
I can take this one just for a short presentation, since I think I'm the one that added it to the agenda, if you guys are okay.
Sure.
So this was a request we received from a city council member to take a look at the intersection of Dolores and 6th, which is a busy intersection. That whole corridor there along 6th is the sort of like secondary main route of travel other than Ocean. So the request was to look at turning that into an always stop sign. Currently, there's only a stop sign as you're going up east and west on 6th. The request was to add stop signs on Dolores. So that's, I mean, I know maybe Chief, you called in yesterday. That's pretty much the presentation. You called in yesterday. I'd like to talk a little bit about, or hear a little bit about traffic incidents in the past. I mean, when we analyzed the 7th and Junipero stop sign issue, we looked at traffic issues, and there was a number of accidents there. So I'm curious what your investigation turned up at this location.
So what we did is we did an evaluation of the accidents the past 3 months, a year, and 3 years. And I think what we found here was there were no accidents in that time period for this particular intersection. So
In my opinion, that alone is very, that's really the foundation to reject the idea of adding more stop signs. I also would want to say that although there's no stop signs on northbound and southbound on Dolores, people enter that intersection very slowly because it is busy and it is kind of in the middle of town. There's a lot going on nearby. So I haven't seen many speeders or anything like that in that particular area. So it's already, heaven forbid there's an accident. The people who are not stopping are still are crossing the intersection at a very slow rate. So
I think it's also, I'm sorry, Bob, but it's important to remember that people coming from a stop sign have to yield to traffic. And so we do have that intersection is controlled by 2.
Right.
So that coupled with the fact that we haven't had any accidents, I'm not sure it warrants the addition of two additional stop signs.
I'm generally in agreement, and yeah, I don't have any other comments. I guess I'll wait till after we open the public comment period, and then when we close it up, I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there anybody in the Zoom world that would like to comment on this this item?
You're referring to the corner where the Village restaurant is right there?
That's correct.
Okay, I always go by landmarks. I find, living in Carmel for a while, a lot of people that are supposed to stop don't stop at stop signs, and the ones that are supposed to don't, because it's, as we know, it's very touristy, especially this time of the year. So I'm just going to remain neutral on this because I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, well, if we're bringing it back to the traffic safety committee, I'll make a motion to deny the request to install a stop sign at 6th and Dolores, and that's based on the fact that we don't have any empirical data showing that there's actually been collisions there.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries to deny the addition of 2 new stop signs at Dolores and 6th. Moving on to item B on the agenda, at Ocean and Monteverde west of San Antonio, review the distance between the stop bar and the stop signs where streets connect to Ocean Avenue.
I should probably take the lead on this because I have the most history here. Okay, so this issue, and not just the intersection of Ocean and Monteverde, but really along Ocean Avenue between Monteverde and San Antonio, and I think there's 3 or 4 intersecting residential streets. We have a 2-lane concrete street in the middle with swales to the sides of them. Then we have offset sidewalks, and there's either parking areas or landscape landscape buffer areas and sidewalks. So that's a little bit of an unusual right of way. What's really unusual about it is where the sidewalk crossings are just to the north or just to the south of Ocean Avenue at the intersections. So, so we took a look at this. This is probably the third or fourth time. I've been here for 5 years, probably the third or fourth time the Traffic Safety Committee has reviewed this. A couple times, I think several years back, we decided to monitor it, not do any specific tasks. I think the last time this came up, or maybe 2 times that this came up, we decided to, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, we were going to experiment one intersection at a time by, Rob, what's the street the first to the east of San Antonio? Is it Carmelo or?
Carmelo.
So we were going to experiment at Carmelo at Ocean and put in little crosswalks for the pedestrian crosswalks up the sidewalks, signage about a crosswalk, possibly trimming low-hanging branches to improve visibility at those locations. We talked about putting boulders, 1 or 2 locations to reduce the possibility of a car or truck parking at the corner, which would, impact the effectiveness of the crosswalks. So we talked about doing this. Public Works was intended to do that maybe 6 months ago, a year ago. We put that on hold when a new capital improvement project came up that has since been funded. It's called the Concrete Street Repair Project. That project is just getting started now to get underway. That project will include hiring an engineering consultant to evaluate not only the repair of the concrete street, but also to make a continuous bikeway or bike/pedestrian pathway between Monteverde and San Antonio, whether that's only using the sidewalk on the north side or only using the sidewalk on the south side or using a combination of both remains to be seen. But that consultant would evaluate using the latest traffic engineering studies or standards, look at how best to address all of those intersections more globally. There is some benefit to pursuing our trial and error approach, at least at Carmelo, and relay the effectiveness to our design consultant. So like in a few months, we could say, hey, this seems to be working very well, or it's not working very well, and let the design consultant take that information and their own experience and expertise to develop an overall solution. So I would suggest that we do not, for this traffic safety committee, to just say, yes, let's change all the intersections at this time, because they would be subject to change, and we don't want to waste time and money on multiple changes, as well as we don't want to confuse the public and having a reconfiguration for a year, and then the contractor comes out and changes it and have a different configuration later on. So so I would kind of suggest that we pursue what we were going to do from about a year ago and do the Carmelo intersection on a kind of a trial and error basis and see how effective that is. And then continue to work with the design consultant on the concrete street repair for the big picture for all of these intersections in this way. And with that, I'll turn it over to one of you guys.
Yeah, I'm good with doing that, but I just had a thought that struck me. Could we instead of worried about the traffic, worry about the pedestrians and warn the pedestrians to be mindful of crossing into traffic? Because it would seem to me that maybe if we had some signs that would match kind of the village, some little wood low signs before, at those intersections along the walkways might be an approach, because that way we're not digging into the engineering, so to speak. We're warning the pedestrians to be mindful rather than the other way around. So
Good comment. I think the engineering covers both traffic and pedestrians and bicyclists for that matter. So,
Yeah. So it's just a thought for kind of a different approach, but I'm in favor of doing what you said, Bob.
Yeah, I like that idea by the chief to add a villagey feeling sign, made out of wood, that says, watch for cross traffic or something, right, on top of the actual engineering stuff. I guess my one comment would be, I guess a question first, Bob, in your proposal, how long do you see this trial period being before if it seems to work, before we do it up and down the whole street?
probably in about 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, we will have a draft design of that pathway that we'll be presenting to Forest and Beach and Planning Commission and City Council. The City Council wants to approve this pathway specifically. And then I guess the consultant would make some adjustments based on the comments we get back. And then we go out to bid and start construction in about a year. So we're a year and a half until it's physically constructed. But about halfway between now and then, it would be a draft design for commission review and council review.
I guess my one concern is that's a long time. And I think that, knowing how things actually work, and this too, Bob, that year and a half is probably going to be 2 or 3.
I hope not.
I hope not too, but I mean, just being realistic, and I feel like this is not the most difficult solution. I'm not saying it's something you guys have the capacity to do tomorrow, but I just wonder if we do the one intersection and put it like a 1 or 2 month arc on it. And if it seems to work, then we just do the rest of them. And if, it sits for a year before this project gets going, or it sits for a year and a half before the project gets going, then that's a year and a half of extra coverage we had. And maybe it's got to come out or get changed. But I mean, if you were telling me like this project was shovel ready and you guys were going to start on it in 2 months, I'd say, yeah, let's hold off. But
It's not.
It's not. I mean, it's not, and that's not a knock on anybody. I just think, I don't know, that's sort of my thought at this point.
And also, just for the record, it's not just Ocean Avenue that's being reconstructed. It's also San Carlos, some intersections, and several others, including the ADA ramp at 7th and Nibro, come to think of it.
If the stated goal of this idea is to provide some extra coverage and protection for the pedestrians crossing those streets that come onto Ocean, I don't necessarily think we have to or really should wait until the bigger project is done. But I'd like to, I want to hear from our one public member. That's my comment. And then, if you guys are done, then we can open the public comment.
Before we take a note to the public, if I may ask the chief, any accident data that was?
Yeah, that one had the same number as 7th and Unipro. I think it was 2 in the last 3 months. And I think it was 7 overall in the last 3 years, but none of them were pedestrian. So
not non-injury car accidents?
I think there was one injury, I think they said, but I think the main point here is the fact that we're talking about pedestrians and none of those were pedestrians. So it is an intersection and a dangerous intersection because of, as you saw yesterday, I think the limited visibility based, especially on going west down Ocean, and it's tough because that tree and parking and.
Yeah. You open it up to members of the public?
Oh yeah, let's open it up to our member from the public. Do you have something you want to comment on this issue?
Oh, I just want to make sure I kind of got lost. There was a lot going on. So basically you're just saying you want to move the stop sign forward so that you don't have to creep along to be able to see what's coming at you at intersections. Because my experience is that the largest trucks or delivery trucks park on corners and you can't see around them. So I have a very low setting car and I have to creep way out, and I always feel like I'm going to get hit just to see if there's something coming. So I guess succinctly, as I can state it, is that whatever would make for a safer environment for pedestrians, I'm for.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome. Did I get the gist of it, that the stop signs would be pushed further into the intersection? Is that what you're saying?
No, so basically we're talking about, the complaint was that because of the location of the stop signs and the pedestrian walkway, which is set back from where the actual street is, there was concern from some folks that there was a pedestrian potential danger there. So we're looking at how to engineer kind of pedestrian safety into the streets.
So you're kind of saying, like, right? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, we didn't hear your comment.
Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you. I was just saying, like, as an example, right at the huge intersection at the bottom of Ocean Avenue and Junipero, I think it is, by Bruno's, you're going like that huge stop. And then the crosswalk is set forward from where the stop sign is for the vehicle. Is that what you're kind of like what you're saying?
No, the opposite of that. In these pedestrians, the stop sign is actually forward of where the pedestrian walkway, and there is no crosswalk.
So just to clarify, so we're basically Monteverde West all the way to the beach. So we're talking about the pedestrian pathways that are on the north and south edges of Ocean Avenue going down the hill where they cross the little side streets. You come out of the trees and you cross the side streets. So we're talking about protection for the pedestrians that have to cross those little side streets.
Yes, I'm for the protection of pedestrians.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think we're ready for a motion.
Yep.
I make a motion that we go full steam ahead to implement whatever we feel is prudent at the time and the field to improve pedestrian safety and bike safety, or let's back up, pedestrian safety at the intersection of Ocean and Carmelo, both on the north and south side of Ocean. As soon as Rob can get that scheduled in and assess it for a few months, and then at the next, keep it on old business for this committee, and see how that's working, and then determine at that point whether to continue it, or we'll see what the status of the improvement project is as well. Maybe we can get our designer to attend the next meeting for their input, but we're not there yet. So that's my long-winded motion.
So what was your time? I mean, for the next traffic safety committee meeting, then we would have a report back on how it's going. And at that point, we'd make a decision whether or not to expand the program.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carried.
Hi.
Okay, thank you. We will bring it back to as old business, our next meeting with Bob and his crew going forward with the ones at Carmelo.
Yes.
So we'll move on to item C, Northeast Junipero at 4th. Consider request from the Metro Transit. Is that what it was?
Monterey Salinas Transit, MST.
Monterey Salinas Transit to remove 2 parking stalls in front of the bus stop at that location. So we took a look at this, and my observations were it's a 4-way stop. So when the bus does stop to pick somebody up, there is no real potential that any traffic that may approach the bus would be coming from a stop sign. So I didn't see that there was an issue with the a danger issue with the bus stopping there. And additionally, the bus loads from the right side, so the person would not have to step into traffic if they were waiting for the bus stop. So I didn't really see the necessity of changing anything in regards to this.
Chief, before we get too far into our deliberations, I think Rob got a last minute comment from MST, which I think would be instructive to our conversation. So perhaps if you're okay with it, Rob can read that in.
I printed it out. I'll read it into the record. It's from MST. Essentially, they're the applicant. They're the ones who requested that this be heard by the committee. So they wrote a message, or I guess a email to Rob this morning from MST. It says, this meeting was just been brought to our attention, and unfortunately it conflicts with another meeting that my staff and I need to attend. The issue is that the MST has a bus stop at 4th and Junipero, bus stop number 5259, that is served by 2 routes. There is a bus bench at this stop. At one point in the past, there was a red curb to prevent cars parking in front of the bus stop. The red curb has faded and the road has been marked for 2 parking spaces. This is a problem because the MST bus cannot serve the stop when cars are parked, particularly if we need to use the bus wheelchair ramp. Our drivers are not allowed to deploy the ramp to board passengers on the street due to safety risks. That's the end of their comment. I have a question for Rob. I believe you have never seen it painted red.
No, it is not. My
At least
career
45
here,
years.
it's never been red.
Yeah, I did, when I saw that, Bob, if I can share my screen, I actually did a little bit of research because I love Google Earth and Google Maps. Let me show you guys something really quick. So I went back through, can everyone see that?
Yes.
So this is the most recent photo from 2017. I went back to 2008, nothing, 2011, nothing, 2014, nothing, 2016, nothing. And just to be doubly sure, I checked Google Earth, the app as well, which had a clear picture all the way back to 2003. And you can see there's still cars parked there. Once you get older than 2003, the images are pretty grainy and it's hard to tell. But as far back as 2003, it does not appear that that curb was painted red.
I'd also make a couple of comments that it's my understanding anyway. I don't have solid proof. My understanding is that there's low ridership at this location, and that we've only received the 25 plus years that Rob has been here, only 1 complaint from MST about this particular bench at this location. So it's not like there's a widespread problem here or multiple complaints. So and since there's no, well, there's the issue with the wheelchair loading ramp.
But can't they just pull forward? It's a driveway literally not feet above it. So if they wanted to pull forward to make clearance or swing wider to take up room, they could do both. Either one of those things work.
Good point.
So are you done, Bob?
I think so.
Okay. So I went by this one yesterday. I went by it again today. I did my Google Earthing, and I'm kind of conflicted on this one. On one hand, I understand it's a low ridership bus line. However, it is still public transit, and it's there for the one person that uses it and needs it. And that person may have accessibility issues. And for me, that accessibility one, I think, is the tipping point that got me over the edge. My feeling is that I know for a fact that the Carmel Lodge, which is being remodeled just a block and a half away, is adding a parking space to our city total. They're removing a driveway, so we're getting an additional city parking space there. So if we were to make these 2 parking spaces go away on total, we only lose 1 in the entire city. I think also having a bus stop in one of the 2 lanes of traffic in one of the busiest streets we have, going out of town. I know it's 2 lanes there, but having a bus stop there in the traffic lane to pick up or drop off someone is also a little bit problematic. So with all that being said, I think I am actually in favor of the 2 parking spaces going away. Perhaps we can look at, on the other side of the street. I know every now and then we look at the restriping, if we restripe, can we, pick up, squeeze in one extra spot? Maybe we don't need to do that. Maybe it's just one spot and we're okay with that for the overall benefits to folks with accessibility issues, traffic flow on Junipero. And really just, I know it's minor, but I do think there might be, some safety issues with people having to go between two cars, or if someone has, a bus is stopped there and the person who's parked in one of those spaces needs to get out in an emergency basis. It is in front of a gas station as well. I don't know. It does feel like perhaps the correct solution here is to make them go away. I don't believe that there has ever been a red curb there, so I don't think it's necessarily that we need to put it back how it was. So I don't put a lot of stock in the comment from MST, but I do think that it might be the right decision to get rid of those two parking spaces. But that's my comments, and I'll wait and see what the public has to say and what the others on this committee have to say as well.
Well, for me, if we're going to use the handicap or access, then I think this really becomes a bigger discussion to, are we doing all of them consistently throughout our city? So that would be my issue, because if that's a concern, then we need to look and make sure that we're making that ability for all of our citizens, that potential. So maybe we push this one back to see, because I'm not in favor of dumping them on that rationale if we're just going to leave 8 more or whatever. And I don't know what the bus routes are anyway, so I'm ignorant on that. But that's that's my concern on that.
Good. There might be some benefit to have the applicant appear at the next meeting. So maybe they can weigh in on this, because.
And maybe they can tell us if they have other issues in the city.
Yeah, right.
Because they'll know better than any of us, and right. So
Right. It doesn't seem like anything's
I would agree with you.
urgent.
I mean, I think, sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think anything's urgent that we have to make that decision today and change it to red curb tomorrow or anything. So I
Yeah.
think we can wait for the next 3-6 months until our next traffic safety committee. But I think having MST here, which we were assuming they would be, I think having them here and really given their side of the story, I think it would really behoove us to get that input before we make a decision.
I would agree. I like the idea of, and I think we put it on MST, have them look at their bus stops and see if there's any others where there's the ability to park in front of them. The ones I'm thinking of other ones that are in the more residential areas. And while there's no red curb or anything, because we don't really have red curbs in the residential area, you just wouldn't necessarily park in front of a bus stop. This has delineated parking spaces here, so we're asking people to park here.
Right.
So I think that's the difference, but I don't know all the bus stops off the top of my head to be able to be sure.
So do we're going to make a motion to pass it off and give them to our next traffic safety committee and have them an opportunity to come in and have a discussion?
I think we
should
still
take
need to
public
get public comments anyway.
Is there anybody out in the Zoom world that would like to make a comment on this issue?
Unmute. Okay. Yeah. Hi, that's Charles Peruta here. I'm sorry I got late to the meeting. I had trouble getting connected to it, but I live on Santa Rita between Ocean and 6th. And we've got 3 neighbors that are very upset at the parking situation there, since we're so close to the central business district. From every event in the city, we get overflow parking onto our street, and it's a very narrow street. It has 4 Comstocks on it. Plus now we get tourists by somebody came up with a money-making app that
Charles, excuse me for interrupting, but we're on a specific agenda item for the traffic safety committee talking about the potential of putting a no parking area in front of a bus stop on Junipero, and we're looking for public comment on that item right now.
Well, okay, I'm sorry, I got in late, but the chief told me that I'd at least like to have it considered for the next meeting.
Hey, Charles, why don't we do this? Since you weren't there for the public comment, we will add it to our next meeting as an agenda item.
Thank you so much, chief. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
You got that, Rob?
Thanks, Charles.
And Rob, I'm more familiar. I talked to him about that issue. I'm more familiar about exactly what the concern and issue is, so I can help clarify that for the next agenda.
Thank you.
there anybody else out in Zoom world that would like to comment on this issue?
Am I unmuted? Sometimes it makes me have to keep unmuting myself. Can you hear me?
You
Yes.
are muted. Yeah, I'm sorry, we've been muting you when you're not talking, just because there's a little bit of feedback from your phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I think I'll go with the consensus because it might be good to have representation from the Monterey Salinas Transit, there. So I'll just go along with everyone.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to push this onto our next agenda as old business.
I second.
Yeah, can I just request, can we give specific direction for who or how we're gonna reach out to MST and make sure that they do some work before the meeting and come prepared to talk about this?
Good point, Brandon. Rob, did you have that email for those folks? Is someone going to communicate that?
Yes, they've been in contact with me, emailed me this morning, so I'll relay the message back to them and keep
Okay,
the loop.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. We'll go to item D. Ocean Avenue in Torres, resident requesting speed bumps to be installed on Torres between Ocean and 6th to discourage the use of Torres as a shortcut to Ocean.
Bob, do you want to present this one?
No, but I will. Well, in my history of working with municipalities, I have overseen installation of speed bumps. Almost without failure, speed bumps are installed, and then there's numerous complaints about noise, about damage to cars, about lack of signage. It's just like the money pit of complaints. So 9 out of 10 times speed bumps or speed humps are short-lived and they come out. In my experience is also speed bumps are intended really as a traffic calming measure to slow the speed of cars going along the street. It sounds like the applicant in this case, or the person who called in, is concerned about traffic being routed away from the Junipero and using the street as what's it called, a cutoff? Shortcut,
Yeah.
to shortcut having to go on Junipero. Well, speed bumps are not designed as to prevent shortcuts. And if we were to do this, it really sets a bad precedence, because then the potential is cars would go yet to another street, and then we would have speed bumps all over the place. It would snowball also probably into the residential district. So I don't see any clear need for a speed bump or hump at this location in the first place. And I think the application of a speed hump relative to preventing shortcutting is not the right use of a speed hump. And those are my comments.
So Bob, before I give my comments, I think I'd like to, it sounds like you're a little more familiar with this item than I am. I mean, I see the agenda item, but typically we'll have like a little bit of especially when it's a resident requested item, a little bit of a presentation about, the issue and what the proposed solution is. So can you maybe go into that a little bit more? So the issue is that you perceive or that understood is that a resident, and I know that it's our one public member here, and we'll get to your comments, but a resident is requesting to have a speed bumps to stop people from traversing that street as a shortcut, not to slow speed. And the request would be to install like one speed bump across Torres. Is that your understanding of what that?
I don't know the origin of this other than what I mentioned. Perhaps Rob, did you get this initially, or Chief, did you get?
I didn't get it.
I think I may have actually got the email just to put it on.
Okay.
But I didn't get much more than that. So, I mean, if the committee, there's only one, the only person, if the committee's okay with it, I wouldn't mind hearing from the resident to understand the nature of the concern, and then we can maybe get our comments going after that.
Do you know if we notified that person as part of the notification process?
I
I'm here.
believe she's the one
Oh,
that's
that
on
is
the
the
call.
one.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, wow, okay.
Oh, okay.
my request would be,
something
I know it's out of order, but I'd love to hear from essentially the applicant before we get too far into our comments.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I'm Kathleen Ryan, and my family's had this home for over 50 years, and I've been here about 5 now. And when I watch the Carmel High School students cross the street along with tourists onto from Ocean onto Torres, I'm frightened because I see how quickly the cars come down Ocean Avenue and come around that corner. And many times tourists or students are right there. And I get frightened out of my mind that they're going to get hit. And again, we don't have to have speed bumps, just something that'll detour that the people going so fast. My driveway's on Torres, and a lot of times I go very slowly just from experience. I go out into the street, I get honked at by people using, the street as a shortcut. And also it comes from 6th onto Torres. It goes both ways. And again, please don't get bogged down in speed bumps. I'm open to anything that'll make it safer for pedestrians to cross there, because I've seen people come up to me. I'll be out maybe watering before the drought, but anyway, I'll be out there and they'll ask me for directions, and they're standing right there. And I'm like, please, go back across the street. I'm afraid, because I just see it. I live it every day, and I'm just frightened for people's safety. Again, please don't get bogged down in speed bumps. I would be, you can paint something on the street like slow children, whatever it takes. I mean, I understand speed bumps. I have a Corvette. My car sets very low, and I would scrape every time. I understand that. So don't get bogged down in speed bumps. Just whatever will work. Thank you.
That was very helpful. Thank you. That's what I was hoping
It
for.
sure was. Right.
So Bob, do you want to start over again, maybe with your comments?
Perhaps. I was just thinking, it's interesting that we have a walkway, a pedestrian walkway on the south side of Ocean that people are supposed to use, and it's there's a water fountain, there's trash receptacles, there's benches on that side of Ocean. So for people to walk on the north side of Ocean in the first place is just kind of unfortunate, but I'm sure they do. I think we should maybe revisit the intersection, perhaps a little bit of patrol to kind of see if there's a speeding problem, or people are. I'm not sure I really understand the concern. The concern is about speeding and children and stuff. I understand that, but is it based on vehicles going?
Accidents.
Vehicles
Yeah,
going
the
down?
The acting chief of police before the man that's there now, I sent him an email, and he was kind enough to send me records going back 10 years about accidents. And what I saw was there's plenty of them, because people come onto Torres from 6th to try to make a left-hand turn onto Ocean, and there's been many accidents there. And then again, coming down onto from Ocean onto Torres. We have delivery trucks at the inn that's right across the street from me, the Comfort Inn, and sometimes that walks off the street. And because people are using it as a shortcut, people are honking, and I said, please don't do that. That's just rude. The man's just delivering food. And it's just a mess, because I see the potential what could happen, and I'm just frightened. I just live it every day, and I see it.
Okay.
Again, no speed bumps. You could paint, just paint something on the road that's like caution or slow, or 5 miles an hour or whatever, because they just come whipping around. I don't go out on that corner myself. I stand in my yard and I talk to people. I yell to them across the street. I said, please stay there at the Comfort Inn, because this is not a safe place.
Okay, well, thank you, ma'am. It's really, this kind of going back to the Traffic Safety Committee, and we all share the concern of safety. In fact, that's the name of our committee, Traffic Safety Committee. So we all share the concern about safety. It sounds to me that maybe we need a lot more information. I think we need accident data. I think we might need to put in our traffic counters and look at turn movements at both Torres and 6th and Torres and Ocean. And I think we need to define what the problem is. Once we know exactly what the more of what the problem is, or what the potential for safety conflicts are, then make a decision on what type of, whether it's striping, signage, or a combination of both. But I don't think we're there yet to make a firm recommendation on what we should do out in the field at this point.
Yeah,
My comment was going to be the same. Sorry, Brandon.
Go ahead.
Simply that we need to go revisit this. We drove through there, but this is we've heard the concerns now. So
Right.
I think we need to do what we did with the other ones: is go look at it, evaluate it, pull the data, and then potentially I'll go meet with our person like I did with the other gentleman, and just talk more about the concerns and get a lay of the land, so to speak. So.
yeah, I would agree, Chief and Bob. I think that, for me, it's when we hear from our residents who are in these areas. I mean,
Right.
this person lives there, we don't.
Right.
I think that is the red flag for us, where we need to do our due diligence, as you guys are so wisely saying. Let's go and get our professional equipment out there, our folks that know about traffic, and see what the problem is. This does happen in towns, right? There becomes a de facto, arterial, or whatever you want to call it, or people figure out. And so that maybe this is one of those situations, and maybe we need to think about, if it's really an issue, right turn only signs, things like that. So I would like, but I would agree with my counterparts on this committee that we need more information. But I do appreciate this being brought to our attention, so that we can actually
Sure.
do that research and possibly come up with a solution. So thank
Right.
you to the resident for bringing this forward for us.
To be honest, I think maybe it was me, but kind of went on a tangent from the term speed bump. Kind of turned out, we went down that rabbit hole, and that really wasn't the intent. The intent is safety, and we all agree that that's what we're trying to achieve. And more research, more information, another site visit, perhaps meet this lady at the site. It might be really valuable to get all the more information and make a decision next time.
So we make a motion?
Want to go for it, Chief?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to pass it off to our next committee, but we'll do an evaluation of this specific issue with some more comment and a meeting with our resident.
I second that.
So would, just again to clarify the motion, so between now and the next meeting, we will do that assessment? Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I have Mrs. Ryan's contact information. I can pass that along to the members of the group. And
Please do, because I'd like to meet with her, and also I'll direct my traffic unit to put up the speed device to see
Good,
what our average speed numbers of folks coming through there are.
good.
And we'll collect that data as real data now.
You want traffic counts as well?
I'm sorry?
Should we get traffic counts as well?
Well, it does. Well, the particular machine I think he puts up does account as well.
You're right. You're right. We also have a
Um,
traffic counter, but yeah, we'll do the traffic count / speed. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's my motion. If you need me to restate it, I can try.
I think we got it, Chief.
Okay.
You wanna
Yeah,
call for the
second.
vote?
Yeah, do we have a second?
Well, I think Bob seconded
Yeah, I
it.
seconded it.
Okay. Yep. All in favor?
All right.
Okay, motion carries. Those are all of our items.
Thank you.
We're gonna-
I literally just hit send, forwarding you Mrs. Ryan's contact information right now. So that should be in your email box.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to call the meeting to adjourn at 11:58 a.m. Do we have a schedule for the next one, or we'll set that up later?
No, we can set up later.
Yeah, we don't, typically what we do is we kind of gather them. We try to do them within, at least 3 months of each other, but we gather items. And if we get more within, a month and a half or 2 months, we can do it earlier, but
Once a quarter. I think during COVID, I think we slipped, it was like 9 months or something between which kind of seemed too long because some of the items became a little stale, but I think 3 months is a good rule of thumb.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, meeting adjourned.
All right, thank you, guys.
everybody.
Everybody.
Take care.
Thank you.